needed my coffee this morning, so.
Right. And I thought about drinking some tea this morning, but I was like, it's usually hot up here, so I'm gonna stick with water. So we're good to go. All right.
Hi everyone, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Jay,
and this is the Pretty Awkward Podcast.
We're here for another one, episode 3.
Welcome
back. Thank you all if you've listened to episodes 1 and 2. We appreciate you. And thanks for coming back to join us. We got a good topic picked out, something that's super important, I think, to all of us in some capacity. We're here to talk about it today, so exciting stuff.
Yeah, so we were just returning from Miami. That was a good time.
Yeah, super good time, super expensive time.
Very expensive.
Yeah. So we had the guys with us, our husbands, and we went to Miami. It was Courtney's birthday, 30-30.
Officially 30.
Yes, 30 Club, welcome.
No, but it was really nice. The view was amazing from where we were staying.
Yeah.
The sun was nice, the pool, the drinks, the clubs, everything was really nice. But yeah, it was a little on the pricey side and kind of busy, especially at night. So something was like, glad we went, but maybe we don't have to go back there again.
Yeah, we're definitely going to travel again together, but we can choose another place. I feel like for the money that we spent in Miami, we could have been in like, Cancun, DR, somewhere else. But it was a good time. Happy that we joined y'all on the trip. So we're back and we're here to talk about anxiety.
Yeah.
Something that, like I said before, I feel like we all experience on different levels, or we have a close family member, friends who experience it. And some people may have it or experience it. I always like to say experience it, and may not even know that that's what it is, because it wasn't
There's
until
such a broad spectrum, mild to severe and chronic. There's so many different, and we wanted to say we are not medical professionals in this field,
right? Yeah,
so
this is just our personal experiences that we're sharing with you all, hoping that you can relate or learn something. And we're going to keep the conversation going as always on our socials. So follow us on Instagram, that's Pretty Awkward Pod, and on Facebook, our Facebook group, if you haven't joined yet, and that's the Pretty Awkward Pod as well. So we're going to keep these conversations going
on Spotify, Apple, YouTube.
Yes. So follow us, rate us, review us, all those things. Okay.
I feel like I should specify. I said I'm not a medical professional. I am a nurse, but
Yeah,
I am not a psych professional.
Yeah. This is not your area of expertise per se, right?
Yeah. So again, this is just kind of our take on it, our experiences, something that we feel like a lot of people deal with, and so it's important to talk about mental health. So to start, I just looked up like a basic definition of anxiety, so we're all on the same page. It's listed as a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. And I know personally I experience that sort of frequently. I feel like I don't know, I want to say it's almost less for me now than it was during COVID, because stress and anxiety was so high for me working as a nurse and as a nursing home administrator. People were getting COVID, and every day it was just extremely stressful to come in, like, do more people have it? Is everybody okay? And so there was so much that I feel like now I'm almost a little more numb to it than I was before.
Yeah.
Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But that's not to say I don't still experience it on the regular.
Yeah, so for my anxiety, it's different, a little different for me. So it wasn't necessarily like a event that happened. It was something that I had just been like living with for a very long time and didn't know what it was. I couldn't name it in the beginning until it was like maybe after I had my daughter. And when you have kids, I feel like stress and worry and anxiety is heightened for a lot of people, because it's like, now, oh my gosh, like I'm not just responsible for myself. Like I have this new responsibility for these, innocent beings that we brought into this world. And so you have like those stressors that bring on anxiety. And for me, I didn't know at the time that, when I would be feeling nervous, when I would be like sweating, or when my heart was racing, uncontrollably that that's what it was until I seeked medical, like a professional. Like I went to the doctor and was like, hey, like, oh my gosh, like I'm having a freaking heart attack. Like my heart is racing. And it was like a whole bunch of like just ebbs and flows of it. But I was like, hey, yeah, that's anxiety. Like you have a perfectly healthy heart. Like all of your blood work came back great. Like, it's literally anxiety. Like you have to manage that. And so I went through a lot of just like tries and errors. Like I tried everything. I tried, therapy. I've done like ashwagandha, which I still take, like the calm gummies with ashwagandha, just to help me to like manage like stress and anxiety. And I know a lot of people that I've spoken with, it's like, oh my God, what do you do? Like, how have you like cured your anxiety? And I don't think that you cure it. It's just you learn to manage it. And there's no one size fits all like solution when it comes to something that's so, broad. It's really just based on your personal
Right.
needs and stuff. So
Yeah, it could be learning to deal with it, like what
Mhm.
calms you, music, a calming environment, going for a run, whatever. And I think too, more experiences, and that may be where mine's coming from. Like when you learn it's going to be what it's going to be, then it helps you just to maybe worry a little bit less. But that's not to fix everything. Like I still experience it over the dumbest things. Like for somebody, say I'm texting a friend and they don't respond right away, then I might be like, oh my gosh, they're mad at me, or like I can instantly assume the worst thing. And not too long ago, I was selling a house, and same thing. Like I had sent an email and I didn't get a response back, and I was like sick to my stomach. Like it's like you're making yourself so anxious, and it's so easy to do. And I remember being in psych class, and they talk about those specific things where you create your own story in your head, but there's a million other things that could be the actual scenario.
Seriously, yeah.
But it's so easy to assume the worst, like, okay, everything's falling through, or everybody's mad.
Oh my gosh.
I still do that all the time.
That just makes it so much worse. Like I know with me, like with my health, if I'm like, my heart is racing and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like you will literally diagnose yourself with so many health conditions but it's just that fear of like worry, like if something's going on with you and you don't know what it is, and it's like, it's scary. And so, like I said before, I think some of the helpful things for me that have worked is definitely therapy, having like a routine during the day, like for me, like working out, eating well, and having like a really like sort of structured like routine throughout the day helps me with anxiety. Because if you don't, like, if I know for me, if I just wake up and I have like no plan and I'm like rushing and everything's just out of sorts and I'm not eating well and I don't have any, like all of the things just throughout the day, if it's just all crazy, then my anxiety is heightened. But when I'm like in a flow of like, I'm eating well, I'm working out, which is like, it's a big thing. Like that definitely, I can tell a difference from when I'm working out and when I'm not. My anxiety is just like off, out of the roof. So those are a few things that have helped me. And I don't know, it's not to say that it just goes away again, but it's much more manageable. And knowing that, I went to the doctor, and knowing that my health is, I'm in a good place, that helps too. Because when I do experience anxiety and it's like if I'm sweating or if my heart is racing, it's like I know what it is now. It's like, okay, I can talk to myself. I'm like, okay, like, girl, relax, you're good, you're not dying. Like, you can really just like manage it. And I love that. Like I love looking at my journey, looking back at it, because I was in such a terrible place like 2 years ago with anxiety, and today when it comes up, it's like I can take myself from like 100 to like 50, 25, like real quick, and that's, it's amazing.
Yeah. I think though, for some, I think it's important to note that it doesn't always, like, sometimes it's just not manageable just with those kinds of things too.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like other mental health issues or other neurodivergent scenarios, like sometimes anxiety is coupled on top of that too.
Yeah, for sure. And so like I know I have friends who have they take medicine for it to help to balance them out, and I don't think that one way is wrong or right. It just depends on the individual person. I was subscribed to like You probably know the name, but it's like a medicine, but
like an Ativan
yes.
or Xanax.
Yeah, like that before to kind of manage like my anxiety. And it was like for those cases, like if I'm traveling and I'm like having like an anxiety attack, like, okay, you can take this. So I was prescribed that. I took it and it just didn't work for me. I didn't like the feeling. And
Right.
so I usually go for the more holistic approach anyway. And I tried that first and it wasn't working for me. And so I tried medicine and that didn't work for me. So then I went back to like more just like, my workouts, like I said before, all of those things that I named. And this is what's actually working for me. But that's not to say that it's like, try it, you know what I'm saying? Like the best thing to do is to make sure that you're tailoring whatever it is to yourself, because what's working for me, what's working for Courtney, what's working for the next person may not be for you. But having that information and trying things out is really the best approach,
And sometimes trying to understand for yourself and for other people, like where that anxiety is coming from too. I know I know I have anxiety too, but I know my son also has severe anxiety, especially like social situations. And so it's important to try to it can present itself in a different way. You might feel anxious, but you might present yourself as irritable or grumpy or snapping.
Oh yeah.
And so to someone who doesn't understand, that can be difficult, but I think being calm, if you're dealing with somebody who has anxiety, not yourself, somebody else, like being calm, trying to be understanding. I don't know.
That's very important, because that's a good point, because I know like I've experienced that too, where I would be super irritable, and before I knew it was anxiety, people around me, like especially like my husband, it's like, what's up with you, and then you realize that it's because for me it was like a fear. It was like I was feeling anxious, but it wasn't coming out as like fearful. It was coming out as like irritable. Like it's hard to explain it, but it's like when you feel like your back is against the wall or something, like it comes out as like you're irritable, but it's really just because you can't control like your emotions or put a name on it. Right. And that's really important to bring it up in like kids too, because a lot of people, I think anxiety, the name is becoming like a little more popular and people are learning about what it is. But don't forget about the little ones too. Little people, they have emotions and they have feelings, and they may be dealing with that too, especially with COVID, you know what I'm saying? Like, we talk about adult, all of that stuff.
I know when we first stopped wearing, I don't want to say stopped wearing masks because people still wear masks, but like when masks were not required in the schools or certain things anymore, like my son, he wanted to keep his mask on because he was so used to being able to hide behind that mask that taking it off, he was like, no, I'm good. I'll just keep it on, which he takes it off now. But it's for adults and kids too. I mean, adults talk about it. They're like, oh, I was going to go to that party, but my social anxiety said, no, I'm not going. And we kind of sort of joke about it, but it's also serious, where that's crippling, where it's taking away things you want to do because of your anxiety. But kids too, same for him. Like he might want to do a sport and he might really want to do it, but it comes time to do it and he gets anxious because of people watching or people around or whatever. And that's for a lot of kids and adults and everyone in general. So it's just such a huge topic. We could probably talk all day about it, and there's really no like right answer or cure all or anything to it. It's just something that is important to continue those conversations and continue to recognize it and take care of yourself.
And others too, like family members. Just make sure to be supportive and to extend grace, and know that people. I think one of the more irritating things that I've heard, like when I was explaining like my anxiety, people would say like, just calm down. And it's like, dude, like if I could just calm down, like, and just be good. Nobody wants to feel anxious, so I think it's important to maybe
feeling I hate that. I can't.
Right. I think the most important thing is just going back to like your point with like the triggers and stuff, like knowing what your triggers are and learning what helps you in moments so that you can communicate that with family and friends and let them know like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. This is things that typically help me, so that if you see that I'm a little off or like, feeling anxious or whatever it is that you pick up on, these are some things that you can do to help me, like don't match my energy. That's like a big thing for me. Like if I'm feeling anxious or whatever, I don't need someone around me to like match my energy. Like don't match my irritability, don't match my nervousness, don't match any of that. Just be a little bit of like a stability for me. Come to me like, hey, are you okay? Talk or whatever. And that usually is super helpful. But learn your people, learn if they're dealing with anxiety, what's helpful for them so that you can be a support system, because that's something that's super important.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more of a serious topic.
Yeah, but it's important. This is a pretty awkward podcast. We talk about all the things.
All the things.
If you feel uncomfortable, good.
We've done our job.
All right, seriously. So we did it. Again, guys, if you want to, girls, if you want to keep the conversation going, please comment on our Facebook page, and let's continue the conversation. If you haven't listened to episodes 1 and 2, go ahead and check those out. Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, Apple.
Jay was so excited.
I was so excited, y'all, because Apple, if anyone is in the podcast world or plan to be in the podcast world, getting on Apple Podcast was like a headache. Okay, so cheers to, we're gonna cheers with our little
water and coffee.
Right.
As we talk about anxiety, and I'm chugging a coffee.
Oh my gosh, we didn't touch on that. So I'll just say this really quickly. So I used to drink, I was never like a coffee drinker, but I'm a tea drinker. So I used to drink matcha. And if you know about matcha and chai, they both have like pretty high levels of caffeine, especially the matcha. And so with my anxiety, I would be drinking my Starbucks matcha tea latte every day. Right. And when I tell you, I would be at work and my heart would be like, and I would be like, oh, jittery, and I couldn't focus. I was like, oh my gosh. And so, my doctor was like, do you drink coffee? And I was like, no, but I drink matcha. Oh yeah. Okay. So caffeine, like, let's eliminate that out your diet, or, reduce the amount of your intake. And when I tell you, I'm the type of person, like, if I'm going through something, I'm just like all or nothing. So I'm like, okay, no more caffeine. And when I tell you, like, I've noticed a difference, like, immediately. It was amazing. So if you are dealing with things,
the highs,
if you can, at least to see if that's something that's like triggering it, like try to take it out of your diet for a little bit. So
it can
sure.
definitely contribute.
For sure. I know for me. So, alrighty, y'all. Thanks for listening. It's been real awkward.
Catch you next week.
Right. Peace. We did it.